Good morning, traders. Welcome back. Of course, where we at? It's Trade the Pool, and we got another week coming for you guys, and it's going to be a great one. We'll be watching to see what happens this week after we got, of course, the big bad wolf that tried to blow the houses down, but found out there was brick walls behind because Jerome could not take down the market, if anything, giving the open door for rate cuts in September. Now, the question is how big of a rate cut and how many rate cuts will we be getting moving forward? We'll talk all about what happened at Jackson Hole. We'll take a look into the market. We'll also be talking a lot about China. Yes, China stocks are an area where I've been looking at for some strength. Talked about that on Thursday and continued on Friday with, of course, the Jackson Hole rally. Now, are we on rally alert? Rally alert. As I look to see in the market, can we rip higher? Definitely something to look at. We'll see. Can the market rip? Of course, on Friday, getting a big push up. I'm looking for a bit of a 50% retracement and then a continuation. Of course, you guys can draw that from maybe the bottom action, or maybe we're just anchoring a VWAP there, right? We'll see if we can get back there to the 50%, which is 641. But right now, we're on the pullback and looking for the next rally. We'll have to wait and find out to see if we get that rally. There's only one way truly to find out if we get it. Stay right here and find out, of course. Hit that like button. Let's keep things going. It's Trade the Pool.
Google wants 200, baby.
You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money. It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at.
What's going on, traders? Welcome back. Let's kick things off. Let's get to the charts. Let's take a look at the action this morning. We can look at the SPY. We can go to different stocks. We can take a look and talk all about what happened, of course, and we'll be looking into the market to see what we can find today. And if we look around, I mean, there's some stocks that got some lift, and we got to talk all about the small caps. I know that my man, Michael Noss, is going to be bringing them up here. We were looking at this move to see if it would go right back to the upside. There it is, up there to 235, continuing. We'll see now. Do we get some pullback? And what type of plays can we be playing off of that? We'll talk all about China today as we get towards more of that playbook action. FXI is one way that I can just show you this and how China has really started to get hot lately and continuing on its slow stair-step grind higher. And I was looking at playing this last week with CWeb. I actually got cut out of a position at 45, and that was that day right here on Thursday. It was just a kind of a slight cutout, but hey, the swing was there to play, man. This was a nice 12% rally now on CWeb. Of course, you guys can take a look at today. Earnings came in for PDD. It had a pop. It's now dropped, so this could still get the bounce eventually, but there it is, pulling back now. We'll see what happens with these stocks. As I was looking at China names to be really hot today, even NIO, I was watching this on Friday, talked about how hot it was. It didn't make another move higher. We'll look to see if we get maybe a pullback day, but for right now, China's an area that I'm definitely watching to play the rally. We'll see how this continues to work. Baba is more of a name that I was watching off of that bottoming chart. Look how pretty that trend line is. Exact throwback look that looks amazing here for this to start going back through 130. So if there's anywhere where I'm looking for trends now to start, I'm looking for new themes emerging. And so for me, China is one of those themes that I want to stay focused on and ready to nail it right here on Trade the Pool, of course. And you guys in the chat, let me know. Are you guys taking a look at some of these China trades? And maybe if there's one that's specifically on your radar, you guys can throw it in. Don't forget, you have other ways of trading this. You can do like the yin and the yang, all right? The yang is the bearish, the yin is the bullish version. And you can see the strength in this, guys. I think this is just starting, and we got to continue to watch to see how this breakout works out. All right, guys, we'll continue moving over. We'll talk about some different trade ideas, but there you got a lot to look at in just China alone. Of course, this is the big week for Nvidia as they'll be reporting after the bell on Wednesday. We'll see what happens with, of course, Nvidia. How did they perform? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. Maybe we get a rally into their earnings. We'll have to take a look to see what happened last time. So last time we had earnings right around here, and right before this, we were actually getting a lift. And on that Friday action, we kind of actually pulled back right before the report and then pushed higher. So we're doing a little bit of a pullback right before the report here. Let's see if it going into the report, we just get that rally here. We'll see what happens there in Nvidia. Another one on my levels that I'll be watching is Tesla. I talked about this for a move back above 330s is what the view was like, right? So now I'm looking to see, can we even get close to that? I don't think so. I think we take 340s here and start to drive higher. I'm watching for Tesla to make another run, maybe potentially to 400 by the end of the year. So, hey, guys, I know that I back and forth on Tesla. Sometimes I'm short, sometimes I'm long. I just go more based on what I'm seeing on the chart. And I'm seeing this hold really well, and it can start developing to start pushing higher. Weekly could still pull it back to 330s. So if I keep that mentality, I'm just looking for a break above 340s to really go back to 400. And the monthly chart is something that I'd say to take a look at on Tesla. It's going to help you really try to catch more where the support is or the longer term support and catch the rally. And when you catch a rally in Tesla, trust me, it can drive further than you probably ever thought it would. So I think you continue to watch these monthly levels. 300 is key as day. If it ever breaks 300, yes, I'll turn bearish real quickly. But for right now, the time being, Tesla looks strong here and can get going. All right, we'll take a look at different stocks. Of course, we got the Sunrise report to talk about. We'll get to the Sunrise report. We'll talk about different stocks moving in the market today. We can also take a look to see what's happening around the market, to see what else is going on out there. Let's keep things going, of course. Let's get into the Sunrise report, talk more about what's happening in the markets right now. And, of course, we'll have to talk about, of course, Jackson Hole, as that's what really kicked things off last week. Let's get towards the action and take a look to see what's being talked about out there. And then we got more talk on Intel, right? I think that's also, of course, something to look into. Of course, we got the Jackson Hole, and Jackson Hole signaled that the Fed could start easing next month. We'll have to wait to see what happens with that. Rate cuts now at odds for 84% versus 75% last week. Let's take a look at how the CME Fed Watch tool is looking now. Let me just take a look at how that's setting up here. Let me just pull it up here. It takes 2 seconds. If you guys haven't taken a look at this before, I definitely recommend to take a look at this all the time. I watch this all the time. So I'm going to throw up the link in the chat here so that you guys have that if you guys want to take a look at it. And like always, you guys can definitely take a look at it here. There it is. Let's keep going, guys. And if you guys smash the like for me, let's go. Let's keep going. There's the link there for you guys in the chat. All right, so we'll see what happens if the SPY can go higher here. But the CME Fed Watch tool is now pointing towards 83.1. And this went back and forth last week, right? We talked about how it dropped into the 70s. 1 month ago it was at 61%. Now 83%. 1 day prior, 84. So it's just like that. We're going to have this back and forth action right now, but it's looking like we're going to get a 25 basis point cut, not a 50 basis point cut. So that's something to think about. And then as you go into, of course, October and you go into December, that's when you're going to really kind of start seeing a little bit of a mixed noise. It's 50-50 for October. And then when you get into December, you're talking more and more that you're looking to see maybe 2 rate cuts coming down the line. We'll see what happens with that. If we even get the rate cuts, all something to keep lookout. All right, and of course, this Friday, we'll be watching to see what happens with July's core PCE inflation. Of course, the Fed's favorite gauge for inflation, and that's expected to come in at 2.9% year over year versus a 2.8% in June of last month. So keep your eyes on that. I think that's very important to watch here. All right, let's get out of the CME Fed Watch tool. Let's go to Intel and take a look how that's performing this morning. Getting a little lift, of course, after the news, the U.S. confirmed it took a 10% stake. The U.S. now owns 10% of Intel. And it's something to think about. Are they going to do more of these companies and keep taking stake, right? Well, I talked about 25 recovery in Intel. Now we're there. We'll see if we get to go higher. I think we got a little bit of a push. Maybe it's going to fill this gap. Maybe it gets up there towards 30. But I think at that point, you got to be watching to see what happens. Another thing to think about here is this the headline that finally changes Intel? Finally makes it attractive. I think it is going to make it attractive price action wise. Now, the one concern and key concern I would have is looking to see what happens in their earnings report, because clearly there was reports, and you guys can just search this up as news. You guys will find this, that Intel was already hinting towards a massive write-off because of what happened in some of their research and things like that. So they were thinking about cutting off an area, but they needed to make sure they had the money to get through that cutoff, right? If you're going to write off something big, you got to make sure you're going to be fine. And with all this investment that's going in Intel, part of me thinks quickly, well, here comes the write-off next quarter. So keep your eyes on that mentality. We'll see what happens there in Intel. Can it continue going higher? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. It definitely could rip higher. All right, let's keep going. We'll take a look into the MMA brew this morning. And yes, brew it up there. KDP, Keurig Dr. Pepper. I don't know. When I hear that, Keurig Dr. Pepper, it just makes me think that you're getting a Dr. Pepper through your Keurig machine, and that just sounds disgusting. But, of course, we're talking two of the biggest companies and getting after a Dutch coffee giant like Peet's. Let me know in the chat, guys, if you guys have ever had Peet's. I've had Peet's coffee before. Very comparable to a Starbucks. I really couldn't say they're much difference, right? Pre-market striking an $18 billion deal to acquire the Dutch coffee giant. So KDP taking a big hit to the downside. Is this something that they really needed? I mean, I don't know, guys. They're just trying to keep the growth up, but something tells me this is about to take a nasty downfall here. We'll see what happens. This looks ugly to me. This looks like a big head and shoulder pattern at the top there. But hey, where has this company gone in what, 8 years? 8 years, it's like up like maybe what, 50% here, right? So I don't know, man. It could go a little higher, but is this something that I'm really kind of jumping at? Nah, not really. We'll see what happens there. If it starts to come crashing down back towards the $30 spot is where I can kind of see it going. Of course, this is a post deal. KDP will split into two separate U.S. listing because of this. So it's going to have its beverage side and its coffee side, effectively unwinding the 2018 merger with Dr. Pepper and Snapple. So there you guys have it. This is something that kind of keep an eye out for. Pete's stock is JDE, but it's trades in Europe. So we'll see what happens there with that. JDEP.AS is what I have, but we'll see how that kind of performs. Nothing that really stands out to me, right? There's other energy shock out there. It's kind of like a wind project, but it's also not a U.S. kind of looking or facing company. We can talk a little bit about EVs as NIO is continuing its liftoff after revealing its new SUV. It's priced at $43,000. It has a battery subscription plan. It's kind of interesting, but definitely NIO has been getting the lift. So watch for those China names. We've already talked about how those can continue to go. Eli Lilly has some news here. We'll touch it real quick here. They're still rebounding from its underwhelming trial data on its obesity pill, but shares are falling 13%. But ever since that weird kind of release of that trial data that got out, it's bounced back, right? I mean, it's right back up there. It's up now 14% from that bottoming there. So analysts see big potential. Lilly could take 60% of the daily oral obesity pill market by 2030. So we're talking about $13.6 billion in sales. But Again, we're talking 2030, right? So I think this is just kind of headlines that are out there to try to bring the stock and continue pushing it further. Of course, the rival, right? What's it competing against? It's competing against NVO, of course, as it has its own pill, right? But Lilly's is easier to manufacture and has a lower cost profile that could be a major edge. Ethereum continuing to push as it hit nearly 5,000 over the weekend before pulling back 6% under 4,600. So now we can take a look to see if these Ethereum names start to break out, right? Because on Friday we did get a nice little recovery right back up. ETHU made a huge run, man. That went from 146.94 to 191. This is why I like trading ETHU. It's a wild ride. But when you get it right, I mean, that's a ride within itself. That's definitely ways to make. Now, Ethereum, there were some inflows and outflows. Ether ETFs had a plus 341 million inflows Friday, led by Fidelity's FETH. So we'll see what happens with that one. But there was weekly net outflows of 237 million, the first time since May. Bitcoin's still struggling as the ETF saw 1 billion outflow last week, mostly by IBIT. So some people taking their Bitcoin money and running. We'll see what happens there. Can these continue to fly high? Yeah, there's nothing really kind of stopping them. I think it's more of a matter of, can we continue to fly high overall? We'll see what happens there. July core PCE on Friday, NVIDIA earnings after the bell on Wednesday, and Powell's September move countdown is what's out there to watch for the month and week. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me on that conversation. We'll get towards the stock side of things. We'll take a look at some more trades out there. And if you guys got some small caps to look at, we can definitely take a look to see how those stocks are performing. There's some names that are moving out there. So we'll look to the small caps to see how those are moving out there, see what we can maybe trade. We could also go and take a look at some of these IWM names like RCAT that could really kind of lift, right? APLD, AEVA. We really got to look at those types of names. UMAC. That's another one that I definitely keep a watch on. Repeatable patterns. I talk about that all the time. This one has a repeatable pattern. It's setting up as clear as day, right? On Friday, I was able to make a really nice swing trade on FLNC. Got this one closer towards 7, was able to ride this one all the way up there to like the 760s. Now we'll look to see if this can continue to run. This one runs with Bloom Energy, so I'll look to see if I'm able to grab this, as Bloom Energy just made the rip right back up to the upside, and these could just start going, right? So NEE is another one that I'm keeping a very close eye, guys. I have a feeling this next era energy is really going to get going. And utility names overall, right? As rate cuts come in, utility names could see a little bit of a lift here. So we'll see what happens with these names. Of course, utilities have what? Big projects that they have to do, and they have to finance these big projects. When we have high rates, it doesn't help them at all. But if we're able to take those rates off here and we start to get cuts, right, well, this can start looking sexier. And this is why I think you're seeing CAT start to take a lead and really kind of continue to drive. So with that being mentioned, we could also take a look at a name like Picard, now that's finally back above 100. I've been waiting and waiting to see if this trend would fill. Now that we're getting rate cuts, the door's open for this to go back there towards the 110 and continue. We'll see what happens with Deere, as these all look like they can start to drive. This one looks like it has a clear undercut and rally waiting for it to start pushing, right? So undercut can maybe come back to the 486, but back above 500, I definitely want to know when Deere starts to take that move, because it could start to push higher. All right, we'll see what happens on other things out there. And who made the big Bitcoin drop yesterday? I'll ask my man Michael Noss to see if he knows anything about that big drop in Bitcoin yesterday. But all right, guys, already have played the intro and we've kicked things off, but I know Michael's ready to rock and roll in the background. So let's go ahead. Let's bring him onto the show. We'll go towards the market. We'll take a look at what's going on out there. My question is going to be, what happened? What happened to the Bears? That's what I know Michael's itching to say. So let's get to that action. What's going on? How are we doing this morning? Michael Noss.
Another good day to be at all-time highs.
All
Hope
time
everyone
high, baby.
hope everyone survived the what would it end up being like a 1.5%, no, two on a closing basis, 1.5% from all-time highs. I hope everyone was okay. I know there was a lot of we were laughing at all the people
Yeah.
freaking out with the market down 1.5%.
Well, they replaced Jerome Powell. You didn't see the bot that was taking his spot on in Jackson Hole. Looks like Jerome is in a basement somewhere. Blink twice.
Sure.
No,
All I know is
he
it's
definitely got on the turn. At least that's what it seemed like on Friday.
well, and we're not privy to what's inside the meeting. I don't know what data they look at either. To be honest,
Do they look at data?
you can take a shot every time he says data dependent, and we'll be in the hospital real quick. The
No, it's
taking a look.
transitory.
Well, and like we talk about, it's all positioning, and we've been hammering the table about this positioning for
Now
so
that's
long.
transitory for sure.
And they covered a little bit of their shorts,
Only a little.
not too much. So I think we still have legs here. So it might even be hard to see, but so this red line down here, this is
Yeah.
the shorts from we're talking IWM and the Russell, and they went from being down basically 100,000 contracts net to being down 70,000 contracts net. So still very short and still very wrong after what happened. And as I've been saying it, as long as they are short and wrong, I want to be long and correct. Now, it feels like a little bit of the air was taken out of the balloon. You can see if you go to the Nasdaq as well, they sold a bit of their Nasdaq long. So the trade that we saw unwinding right before us, this is just the data to confirm it. They didn't really cover their ES short, which is just insane at all-time highs. So as long as these guys are wrong, and as long as they have to cover, we gotta stay right. And if you go back in the chart, you can see usually when these guys start to get long, that's not necessarily the top, but that's where we start to kind of get late innings of bull runs, like late innings of pushes. You can see they flip to long, kind of right here, and it didn't mean that we stopped, but that was closer to an end of a bull run. And when they got really long here, that's closer to the end of a bull run. And when they got really long right here, of course, that was for sure the end. And now they're still really short. So I'm just going to keep taking the other side. It's been working, and it's been working for millennia. So as long as it's going to work, I'm going to continue to take the other side of them. I expected way more. Like I kind of thought that there was a blow up and we would see this line just spike because there was somebody that was forced liquidated, all kinds of things. But we didn't see that. We just saw a slight uptick. So a little bit of pressure taken out of the balloon, but definitely not over for sure.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see what happened there. And of course, we did get a question about Bitcoin. So how's that looking?
So look, I looked a little bit on the data. I think they're still net short Bitcoin, and that was a certainly a long liquidation. Yeah, and this is what we talk about where I only care at extremes about positioning, and this is not an extreme by any means. It's kind of just right in the middle. So we're not extremely long, we're not extremely short. We're just kind of hanging out. So you don't really get a lot of data from there. And I don't know. I just look at this and I say, well, we're right back at the 110 zone, and that 110 has been very important. So we got to see what happens there. And yeah, I think it was $500 million worth of net longs, like leverage longs, got liquidated. That to me feels a little bit healthy, and it's what Bitcoin does. People get a little bit too ahead of their skis, they get a little bit too into and on top of things, and then it pulls back. I'm always just interested in this Ether Bitcoin ratio. So this is Ethereum in priced in Bitcoin, just to show, right, is it smarter to own Ethereum or is it smarter to own Bitcoin? And even on that kind of pullback, it's still a great thing to do, right? So basically this line goes down and you're better off owning Bitcoin than Ethereum. This line goes up, you're better off owning Ethereum than Bitcoin. And you can see even with that kind of net liquidation break, they didn't get hit too hard on this particular ratio. So the people who chose Ethereum still did better than people who chose Bitcoin. And seeing this too in the Solana. If you do the Solana Bitcoin ratio, same thing, starting to potentially break out here. So it might be the time switch over Solana, switch over to some of your meme coins, which I know has held up a little bit better in that liquidation gate break as well. So yeah, a lot of interesting moves out there. I just want to do the ES quickly because, I always want to start with the futures, especially on Friday, because on Friday with the futures, you just want to be able to see that overnight session. You can see really nothing's happened. It's been a slow drift, a low volume move lower. Some targets potentially for where this pullback could end. I think I'm going to channel my inner Steve and just look at maybe what the 50% move of just what happened with JPOW. And that's a little bit lower still. So we're still holding on to the majority of those gains. That would be 6,500 or 645. And we're roughly there. We went down a little bit. So that'd be interesting. And again, I'm just using just that move. And then lastly, one thing that I'm going to be watching today on the SPY, and this is something that Brian Shannon definitely does an amazing job of, is you just take the news candle, right? This big pop that happened in 1 minute, and you anchor view after that. You say that is the average price of most people. Let's change it to like a purple. So it looks a little different. There we go. So this is the average price of people who bought during that JPOW candle. And you can see so far, every time we've kind of come back there, undershot it a little bit, it's been a bounce, even happening right now. So I'll be watching that, and again, the VWAP here as well. So there's going to be some interesting action around that. And we need to be able to retake this in order for all those people who bought during JPOW to be up money.
Jay Powell, as he came in, did not pow the markets down there, but did give some insights there. I think he was a little bit on both sides, right? Like he said that, they're seeing that the employment data pointing forward could have them cut rates, but they're also still concerned about inflation, things like that. They're still concerned that they're in kind of a tough stance. He also stated that they're going to probably shift towards more of a neutral stance than a, let's say, supportive, right? Right now they're in what they would call restrictive. So that's something just to keep in mind, right? That there's not just going to be a quick flip.
The biggest quote that my fundamental nerd buddies pulled out of that when I was talking to them, because I just defer to them. I don't know any both or really care that much, but they said they're kind of going to ignore that 2% inflation target, which
the new normal, right?
Well, and it's hilarious because I've talked to a buddy of mine who are like, well, I got a buddy who's a PhD in economics, and I'm like, where did they get this 2% number? And he was basically like, from their asses. Like, there's no supporting evidence that 2% is a good thing. It's one of those that it's just kind of been the norm forever.
Yeah.
You need some amount of inflation so that it gives them the ability to kind of ratchet things up and down. He's like, the 2% just, he's like, it could be 2%, it could be 3%, it could be whatever. It's a completely made up nonsensical number, and it's just one of those that it's one of those things where it's been like that for so long that people think that there's some really great wisdom behind it. Hasn't happened, right? So if they're going to say, okay, we're okay with 2.5 or 3% or something like that, it shouldn't really be that big of a deal, because if you're just making up the number anyway, then who cares what number you're making up the target to? Now, if it was 5%, they're going to be okay with 5% inflation. Well, that gets a little bit scarier, I think.
Yeah, I think it's something to look at, right? I think it's something to watch, and definitely they're in a tough spot here because the way that they see things kind of moving down the line. They do see inflation going up. They see an unemployment kind of job openings dropping, and all types of things that I think are also going to run into what AI has created, right? There's definitely some kind of weird, whether you're out there calling it a bubble, whether you're calling it a redynamics of the way the economics works. I think that's what's really happening here also. So we're going into a new age, the way that economics is going to move forward because of AI. where maybe we don't need so many jobs, but maybe that doesn't mean that it's a weak economy, right? And so that's where it's been a little bit different, right? When there's been high unemployment in the past, that has shown that the economy is not as strong. But I think that we might run into a time when unemployment actually takes a spike and the economy is actually resilient and strong because of what's happened in AI. So it's just
And
things to
that's
think about.
Yeah, and that's the main crux, the main problem I have with people relying too much on these numbers. Same with like a good argument that I've heard is that price earnings is essentially useless because
Yeah.
the price earnings of a company again is we've based this all around what happens when there were like railroads and things like this. But now if it's an AI company that two people are managing, what's the price to the absolute earnings? Well, there's a lot of ways that you can hide and obscure and change. And, for Amazon, I remember for years, they intentionally never made a dollar, right? They just reinvested everything they had. And there was people I
Yeah.
remember on CNBC there saying, how can you buy this crappy Amazon company? It's never made any money. And it's one of those things like, well, they're trying not to. Or so when you
Yeah.
rely too
Exactly.
heavily on just these numbers and you're not understanding the story behind it, yeah, it makes no sense to me.
It's an interesting outlook, and I think this is just stuff to think about for next year. Really, when you really think about it, it's nothing to think about for this year. And so now it's all about, will the rate cut get priced in, right, or did it already? Right, those types of things I think are going to be talked about. I think that we're still in the camp that it wasn't priced in because there was still back and forth. So I think this is what's opening the door for another rally. Right now, the only question is, how much can we rally? Things like that. Of course, we did get a kind of a shift last week to more of quality names and stuff like that. But by the end of the week, it was a little bit of a mixed noise. And I think that we gotta watch to see what happens this week.
Well, I think it's going to be more of the same unwind where it's the ability, right, with the whole unwind. Uh, it's you just need to keep following the positioning, right? The areas that will do the best are the areas that are mostly short, and we can go through that again for people who have just joined. But let me see if I can actually do. I have the Oh, I do have it here. So if I go to IWM on the COT data, and let's go RTY. Is it RTY? That's the Russell futures, yeah. So there's the Russell futures, and again, we're focused mainly on the red line. And actually, let's just only show the red line here. Boom. So these are large speculators, and they have been shorting aggressively the Russell the whole way up. So these guys have been insanely, ridiculously wrong the whole time. You could not be any more wrong than these guys. And then just a little bit of a tick up. So the reason I think we still have legs is because they've only covered just a wee little bit. Like it's not hasn't been a big amount of covering at all in this particular future. So until we see this line get somewhere back to a little bit more normalcy, that's the only thing that I'm looking at, right? We can do the same thing with ES. They are still short. They didn't really cover that much at all. And I talk about it, for a short squeeze, you need to have a lot of people short and you need price moving higher. And we have both of those things where we have a little bit short and then we also have price moving higher. So we're seeing this thing blow out. And, I've been saying it since I got here and I'll be saying it till I'm blue in the face. Until these numbers return to normal, get somewhere closer to a baseline, then they're wrong. And we have to exploit when they're wrong. Like the advantage we have on these hedge funds is when they need to, when they need to get out, it's going to be not pretty. If they're holding on, if you're short the market for this long and this wrong, you're basically at this point, like, to pull these out of my cold dead hands, and they will. At some point, the broker comes and he knocks on your door and he says, cover your short or I'm taking your house. and they force liquidate you. And when they force liquidate you, they're not working a fancy VWAP algorithm. They're not playing with, hey, let's try to get you a good price. Let's do a little bidding. It's just market buy after market buy after market buy. And you'll get this unrelenting bid higher. And that's what we saw last week. So I expected more of this, to be honest, to take place. But we just didn't see it. We just saw a little bit of a push. So margin calls on the way up is really sad. And again, this doesn't necessarily happen because they lose so much money that they are forced to liquidate. What can happen quite easily is, say I'm invested in this hedge fund that is aggressively short one of the greatest bull runs we've seen. And I'm paying you performance fees and management fees to lose money horribly. Well, I'm probably talking to my buddy at the golf course who is doing the opposite, and he's making money. Well, I'm going to go to my buddy and say, "Hey, is there any openings at your hedge fund? Because I would like to remove my money from the awful hedge fund who's been a perma bear, and I would like to put it into the good hedge fund that's making money." And if enough people do that, then they redeem and they pull their money back, and then these guys have to cover because I have to give you, the investor, your cash back, and I've got it tied up in really crappy IWM shorts. The only way I can get that money in order to pay out this investor and have him redeem is by covering my position. So these things happen, and they happen quick, right? Because these are kind of tight communities too, where if I'm XYZ multimillionaire who's in this hedge fund and I redeem, probably telling all my buddies who are also multi-million-dollar hedge fund investors, and they are redeeming, and they're redeeming, and they're redeeming, and it just creates this kind of catastrophic event. We saw this in 2008, in which a lot of that was happening. I was working in the hedge fund game in 2008, and there was a lot of people who were redeeming, not because the fund was necessarily even getting destroyed, but they were just worried about the market in general. So they just decided, I'm going to take my money back. And by doing that, the hedge funds had to liquidate positions that were down and down significantly, but might not have been awful if they were able to weather the storm and keep their fund intact. Then that would be absolutely fine. But again, I think this unwind is happening. I think it's probably happening behind the scenes. I think it gets to the point that until this unwind is done, we got to stay on that right side of the market. So a couple of people talking about Hertz, bankrupt and then bad again. It looks all right. I did want to talk about Open. I did want to do a little pat on the back on Open, and hopefully
Yeah.
not brag too much, but no new short float data, sadly, on Open. I was hoping for.
It's not the short, man. It's the rates.
Yeah, but if over a quarter of your float is short and it's gone up 10x, those guys, that plays a factor. Those guys are losing money.
It definitely they're losing money.
Right.
But I think that too many people are just looking at this play like it's just that. It also has like a cult like following on Reddit, from what I've been hearing about.
Good.
So just keep that in mind, right? It's being like brought up in like threads like that. So
Good.
they have it. I mean, no, it's like a combination of factors, right? So you got the short people running, right? You got a cult like following now, like kind of memeing it, right? Then the rate cut situation. Just take a look at Zillow, right? I think that's why I always point towards more of Zillow, and you can see how Zillow's starting to take off. This is all opening the door, haha, pun intended, for Open to continue running here.
Well, I hope they're wrong. Yeah, Zillow's got a pretty decent 10% short float there. 6 days to cover. Yeah, that's pretty heavily shorted.
You know what I mean? I mean, I can't blame them, right? But another thing is, you talked about it, we talked about it, right? Looking at the home builders, did you see the run and nail?
Oh yeah, I've been pounding the table on this.
Let's go. Let's nail it out, man. Let's get that hammer and nail ready, because
The best tops or not tops. I don't know how many people I saw, right? The economy's over, and they kept pointing to this kind of head and shoulders look on on home builders, but when you get a breakdown and that breakdown recovers pretty quickly, it's all I want to see, right? It's, so I am long home builders from kind of right in this area. I took this as opposed to nail in particular just because I want to hold it for a long time. And, we talk about with the leverage short or the leverage plays, especially the 3x ones, they can be problematic. But the best tops are ones that are not a top and everyone looks like and everyone's saying and everyone's thinking it's a top. And again, I was to the point where I was on Twitter Spaces and people were like clowning on Buffett because he bought a whole bunch of home builders right here saying, hey, what are you doing? The old man's lost his touch or whatever. And so far, so good. So now the question is, I haven't even looked, is there a short float on ITV? Like, how offside are these guys?
Well, I
Do you
don't think
guys
they're. I
know?
think
I
you might
love
have to go
that.
to the specific stocks, right? I don't know. Will I
Yeah.
have it on it?
Yeah, it's got days to cover. And it's not that crazy. But yeah, you can do some of the, you can do BLDR, you can do Lennar,
And
and 5%
and I
short
think this
float.
just leaves the room for it to get back to the highs, right? I don't know if it's going to go towards like let's say like something outlandish, but I think it also tells us to look at the history of when the volume comes into nail. Because if you look back when the volume comes in, it's usually after these long dips. Like we had a big volume pump between like 2022 and 2023. The volume came in. The volume came in the pandemic. Those are the last two like big volume spikes that I'm seeing here, right? So when the volume comes in, this has a tendency of rallying, right? So,
Hmm.
even here when it had dipped, right? It had done this dip, right? It was a big dip. It was 43%. It got the volume, it rallied back. Here, we're getting the volume. So this is really opening the door for another rally. And I am the guy also that can clearly go down the street and show you multiple communities with empty houses. But if they find a way to fill the houses, yeah, this could keep going. So I think this is also just opening the door for a little bit more supply push in the housing area. Now, is that a long term recipe for disaster? That's long term. That's down the line, right? We're talking maybe a year or two down the line. So I think this
Um,
is opening the door for a nice rally. Any specific stocks you like in this area, Michael?
yeah, and again, whether or not that's going to be a disaster, I don't know. That's you have to do like
That's down the line,
demographics
right? And so
and
down the line thinking, I think, is just don't think about it now, also, right?
yeah, and again, it could be a great thing. It's having a greater population and then more people in houses, probably a good thing, right?
Hey, I think it's
Having
just the prices that are a little bit outrageous because when you do look at it, affordability of homes towards like wages is just a little bit outlandish. But that doesn't matter, right? As long as people are buying the house, right? Now, if no one buys, that's when things get tough. The number one thing that was keeping buyers on the sideline wasn't necessarily also the prices, but more the interest rates, right? So
Mhm.
at least that's at least starting to look better, right? People are willing to buy, but interest rates are the ones that keep your monthly mortgage. It affects like 1% is like $300 on your monthly mortgage. So I mean that's a big difference, right? 2%, $600 a month. It's a big difference, right? But looking through these housing stocks, is there anyone that stands out to you?
I would go for the highest relative strength, right? That's so
Yeah,
I was looking at Toll, and Toll's doing a
Toll,
little bit better than some of the
right?
other ones. What was it? Lennar actually had a pretty decent short float, so I would keep an
Yeah,
eye on that. And again, it's not about the float, it's about where they got short. They got really short in these kind of 110, 120, so you're already down 20%. And that's a home builder, right? You're down.
yeah.
These things aren't going to triple, quadruple, all that kind of stuff. It's not gonna happen. So the now that we're getting this push higher, that could be, we know these people are underwater, right? And again, being underwater 30% on a home builder is pretty decent. It's a pretty big move there.
Yeah. There's a couple in the building materials games that I just looked through. None that I really like. I'm just gonna be like a proponent of right now, but I think it's interesting space. Why building materials? Because we know these materials are getting so like loved and their appreciation is getting higher, right? All these materials are costing more, right?
Hmm.
So they have been seeing that kind of lift. It's an interesting area to look at. There's names like CRH, there's Carrier Group, Builders First Source, those types of names I really like here. Um, that CRH chart stands out to me as just more like a high flyer. And this is actually a $74.8 billion company, one of the leaders in the building material names. So, hey, there's some really, there's a strength here.
Yeah, for sure. It's XLB for materials is just a good overall sector, and that's awesome. Um,
Gold is continuing, right?
yeah, gold looks well. It's consolidating. Potential breakout here. This is a really interesting gold chart. Again, I don't think they're going to make that breakout that clean on something
GLD is
so watch.
interesting, right? Yeah.
It's just tight, tight, tight. And then again, the futures, they're always way more heavily traded, so you keep
Yeah.
more of an eye on the futures than you do the ETFs. But same kind of pattern, right? A little bit more after hours action, but same kind of just kind of choppy pattern here. So yeah, I really, I know it's part of the material sectors, but I don't really look at as gold too much as a material stock, just because it's
Yeah.
not really you're not building anything with gold unless you're Trump, I guess. But it's just more of
Mm.
a it's just a nothing kind of burger. So this to me is more of a worry about either inflation or the dollar or something like that. That's why weirdos usually try to buy gold as opposed to looking for something good. But
One at least in metals and minerals, just standing out to me in building materials, Valet. But that's also in just the basic material sectors overall. That's a known runner. There's a lot of these IWM names that I think we got to keep an eye out for. That they're going to be in these themes, but also part of the IWM and some small caps. I think we got to keep our eyes open for these.
well, this is just so caught as gold short is what tax things. This is where I just want to focus on. Again, we only care about this at the extremes,
Hmm.
and if you just go back for a long period of time, they've been short this. So the reason we only care at the extremes is because this could be a hedge for something else, because they're always short, right?
Oh
They've
yeah.
been always short gold, going back in history. So I don't really look at this too much. Now, when it got to an extreme level down here, maybe that was something, and we were breaking out. That was something to keep an eye on. But I don't look too much at this. And then you also mentioned the dollar. So we'll just see to USD.
There's so many
And yeah,
players.
this again, not really an extreme. So I look at this as kind of just it's something, but it's not really everything. The fact that they flipped from long to short right at the lows is kind of hilarious to me. So these kind of things make me go, okay, maybe I'll look to buy, US dollars or something like that if the pattern sets up, but I wouldn't do that just because of caught in the same way that I've been pounding the table for months now on get the perma bears out of your life, because they're all perma bears and they're all short. See, I use you so much. Some point I gotta buy these guys. I've been using Finviz for ages, but who paid them $1? At some point, they deserve
I mean, I've used them.
$20 a month.
They're not bad. They're not bad. They're really awesome. I mean, it's just I think their free sources are enough. You know,
Mm. I get triggered by the ads.
just the ads. Yeah, they're a little annoying. I will say
Ye-
that.
Yeah, and this makes sense too. If you're going to go into the currencies when it goes to committed traders data, go into the currencies. Like, don't just look at the dollar overall, but look at like the euro and look at all those and kind of see what's happening there, because they're long the euro. Where's my Canadian? Because for me, I always want a very strong US dollar and a very weak Canadian dollar. But it doesn't look like we're going to get that, sadly. Because I get paid in American from all the different sources, and I don't buy anything from America. So that's the bias that I have. But so just going into the open here, we're getting close. We're getting a minute out. Really, we just have to pay attention to, I think, right? We've got the overnight view app right here. We've got the view app above, and then we've got these lows here from the after hours right below us. That to me is going to be my main focus, is how do we do right off the jump here, in that first.
Yeah.
Let's do
For
RTH standard
nail
chart.
outlook
There
for
we go.
me under 84. That's a throwback look. Just putting it out there. There's the market goes. Let's get after it, traders. Get after it. See what you can come up with today. We'll see what happens here. You know where you're at. It's trade the pool. Let's go. Let's go.
A little bit of spike right off the bet. The reason I'm so interested in the opening right here is because the big guys, as we know, they're not buying stuff overnight. And they're not buying the Sunday night open on the S&P 500. That's more of a retail zone. So we want to watch this first kind of half hour to get a bit of a gauge, right? Are they taking profits up here after Jackson Hole, or are they very grateful that we got a little bit of a dip off that level, and then they start buying aggressively? And then this also transports over to like Ethereum and all of that, because right, a lot of these guys still, they transact in the futures world, right? They don't really move. They don't have their money at Kraken, right? The large institutions out there, they have their money with the CME and the CBOT. So yeah, this first little bit I think is going to be interesting. So far, a little bit spike off the open, then a pullback. Nothing triggering so far on any of the systems. So we'll just wait there. Still in cash. Just going to go through. Ooh, pretty aggressive move down here right off the open. So let's keep an eye pretty closely on this. See if it's happening overall, or if is it just happening to one or two securities. So
Just looking
the IW,
around.
yeah, pretty much everything doing a little bit of a dip off the open.
Yep. Little dip, little dip.
Let's see if we take that back.
One name that I was watching get a little lift there. I tried to put out a bid, but the spread's just a little too wide. Bros Coffee, I think it's getting that lift because of the KDP buyout. It's a Dutch company, but that's funny. It's just getting the lift. Dutch Bros. Maybe Starbucks pushing also today. We'll see if Starbucks makes a move off of that, or does Starbucks get hit off of that
Yeah,
headline.
Starbucks is doing the opposite.
The opposite. There you go. That could be a trade within itself, right? It could be a short on Starbucks today. So a move back above 87.50s wouldn't be too bad. Bros is pushing. It's up 2.74%. But the thing was, the spread was just too hard for me to grab. SMR getting the hard dip through the 35s. You're getting hard dips on stocks that got bought up on Friday. And so you can look for those hard dips to see what happens. Palantir is getting hit hard. This is why I thought that the dips were to buy in new themes, not prior themes that were getting the lift, right? And I think some traders went quickly back into Palantir, and they're paying the price right now, right? It's about to break Friday's low. If you were in a stock and your stock's about to break your low on Friday, I think you have a problem, right? Michael, I saw you put out one about like your year outlook. What about your daily outlook for like Palantir? Is that a sign of danger there that it's going through your Friday low?
Yeah, well, again, what Mitch is talking about, what I mentioned on the weekend is like if your stock did not appreciate and participate in Friday's rally, it's probably junk, and you should probably take a long, hard think, because everything was up on Friday. So I agree, and again, it's in the positioning. We see it. It's the
Mm-hmm.
Qs, the large cap tech. That's what's getting sold, and then everything else is getting bought. So if you're someone who is just hard stuck on, I have to buy, only large cap tech, then I think you're gonna have a hard time over the next couple of weeks, maybe month or so. Eventually, it will probably return to normal, which is large cap tech outperforming. But I think you're going to have a little bit of a hard time in the short run, because it's just the positioning has to unwind, which means buying IWM, selling the Qs. So things like regional banks and everything are going to do well, and everything else is probably going to do a little bit poorly.
Everything down out the gate. Snail trying to hold 85 on the support. That's not a bad area. I might take some bets here. Just trying to catch dips. SMR is one that I'm looking at.
What's
We'll see what
the
happens.
do we have anything else today? No. New home sales at 11, but that's we've already gotten a lot of home data that
Love
I
to
think
see 84 on nail.
just that might move that. So just be worried. Be cognizant that in 25 minutes you get homes data. So
Yep. So
you know,
maybe first uh, part of the market on the red side, right? And then once we get that news, if we can go green with supporting data, that could be a way to play it, right?
mhm.
So that's why I'm looking for the 84. Big part for me is also more looking for the pullback into a throwback look. We're at 84.40s now. We're almost towards 84. I might take a shot on the 84s. If I do, it would be a small position now, and then I'd be looking to see that the data supports me later.
Yeah, so far nothing still from the bot. So
Yeah, Toll Brothers
just
pulling back.
sitting
What
here.
about the furniture stocks? What about Wayfair and
Watching.
those names? Of course, they had news because Trump wants to tariff Wayfair and other international furniture makers. So I thought this could be one stock that could be a nice short. The stock has been up about 300% lately.
Damn.
It's taken a big hit here. I would love to see it kind of get one more chance to go like the 74 and then see the hit, right? Stop out like some of the people that are stuck in between the range right now. You can see the range right now. It's kind of in between this right here. So if it could like test up here, get all these people like caught that are short, then I'll look for the short right now. But it doesn't look too bad. Also, WSM, you can see how this is coming back up. And then RH, Restoration Hardware, getting a little bit of a bounce. But yeah, these got hit. Lazy Boy is one name that was actually getting a little bit of a lift off of this. Lazy Boy, what's that ticker?
LZB, is that it?
LZB,
Yeah.
there you go. I haven't checked a look at that one in a while. This was getting a lift off of this, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Apple had
Again, I'm
some
just
good news on Friday. I think this one could lift again, guys. I'm watching for Apple to lift again. I traded it on Friday, got a really good trade on it. Looking for it to lift again through the 227 once we could start to get strong again in the market. And there's the SPY really quickly starting to get strong. Real estate getting a little bit of a bounce. Healthcare getting a little bit of a bounce. Watching to see what's going to go green. Green almost tech. Tech almost green here. So I'm watching Apple. That's one of the names that I like here as big boys quality.
yeah, and right, it's one of those moments it's important to zoom out here to the daily chart just to show this
Yeah,
is what
grab me
we've
some
done
Apple.
so far today. And we're down very slightly from yesterday's close, and then so far I've done pretty much nothing. So that little dip off the open to me seemed really anemic. We didn't even get to the pre-market lows, and if you look at the ES, we got nowhere near those overnight lows. So if we start to get back through here, this line, this orange line, this 2-day VWAP, we've hit that right off the open, sold back off. Now we're back through it. So through two-way VWAP, we could definitely get going here. But it's one of those that we're seeing again more of the same. Where IWM, that's IWC, IWM is bouncing as well. And then if we take a look at the Qs, we're down a little bit more here on the Qs. I'm just comparing everything to where they are nearing that 2-day VWAP. So the SPY has just gotten through. And then again, this VWAP right here, this purple line, is the VWAP from when JPOW kind of rocketed us into the sun. So that's the average price of the average person who has been buying after he made those comments. So if we can retake that, that to me is the level that kind of, rocket ship emojis back on. Well, we need to see it, right? And again, I'm to the point where my systems have done nothing yet, and I'm not doing anything. So, right, there's times, and if you look at the SPY, right, SPY hasn't done anything today either, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm not getting too aggressive here, especially on a Monday after a huge move on Friday. It would not surprise me in any way, shape, or form if this is what we look like on the close. They're just right here. Because you had a massive push up, and this is kind of what you want to see. You'd want to see a couple days of sideways consolidation before potential continuation higher, I think that makes sense. If we do just rip through yesterday's high and keep going, to me, that's a little bit more of that kind of short float liquidation type move. Yes, and you mentioned MSOS. Please don't jinx me on this one, because both between this and open, this has been a beyond phenomenal month, with both of these things just absolutely rocketing. Speaking of open, we're breaking through highs here. Let's see if we can hold.
FXI catching a little bit there, just for my China stock watchers. Definitely watching some China stocks today.
Ooh, PDD. Wow. 'Cause this did something crazy. Yeah, on the
Yeah,
pre-market.
earnings. That's why.
Yeah, up and then just tanked. So it was up
Yep.
on the day and then down on the day, and now it's looking like it's back up on the day. So this is
Yeah,
some wild.
they got loaded into on the 120s. What I think was that people taking some profits, reloading here off of the highs from Thursday's action. So this looks good on PDD. Should help FXI. There goes Apple. I took a look to the right. Come on, Mitch. That's what happens sometimes when you don't have systems.
Bots. Hard
That that
bots.
I'm looking for 227 on Apple. I'm gonna try to just jump in here on the 227.30s. It's definitely on the resistance, but looking for Apple to get running today. But definitely looking at FXI. Also, Baba is another really good look. We talked about that on Thursday. It was off the support on Thursday, and now it's already through the resistance going towards that Tuesday high. We talked about it could get towards 130 in a hurry. It's getting there. We'll see if it gets running today. Nice dip through the 124 on that Baba. What do you think about that look there today? That's interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's all gonna be. Oh, geez, that's a weird candle. It's all gonna be just about. I think PDD because of the earnings, right? So that's gonna be kind of everyone's gonna look at that and then try to play sympathy. I think.
Yep.
FXI again looking good. CQQQ for those who don't know, that's the Chinese QQQs. You can do KWeb or you can do CQQQ. That's breaking out to new highs here, not all time highs, but multi year highs. It's generally a good thing. So
Yeah. Starting to see some bids starting to hold here, so I'm going to start taking some shots here. I've already been long on Apple there, guys. I'm looking at APLD for a 16 break today, and then a potential run to 17. We'll see if I can get that. Apple takes a lot of my buying power, so I might have to take some swings. But
APL, there's an
APLD,
there's an Apple leveraged.
yeah, APL, that's APLD, I think it is. No, AP, AAP, is it
APU, is
B?
that it?
B is the
APU?
Granite shares one, but
Yeah, APU is Drextron,
Direction. Yeah, Direction.
$26.
Yeah, that one's looking good there too. So if you guys want something leveraged, there's Apple already up almost about 100 on that. So looking good. Let's see if it really starts to get the run now. Now at this point can go break even. I'm up about $50. So looking for the run. If it comes back to 227, I'll just buy it again. Looking for the run here. Let's see if it wants to just take off. This one looks really good on the daily chart, guys. That's why I like Apple. So it held here, the 9 EMA. You guys know how I'm all about those like easy 9 EMA entries, right? So you can see the stair step right around this level. What I think is the best level is 227. But if we could take 230s, we start to go away from that level and we start to really push. We'll see what happens there. METC looking good. I'm looking for BTU to make another run. I ran this on Friday, made some really good trade on this. So BTU now starting to push and holding the support from Friday's action. Looks good. METC running. AMR is one that I could maybe look at. CETX. Start looking to see if we get some different coal players out there. But Apple, big push there. Now back towards 228. Looking good there now, guys, as we start to just drive in Apple. So looking good. Let's go.
Yeah, so just looking, we got an advanced decline of 0.7 right now. So just showing that about one roughly for every stock that's up, there's stock that's down. So very much again, just what we've been talking about. It's a bifurcated type of market. So we need to keep an eye out to see. Well, yeah. So Bitcoin selling tax saying, and it is. So it's very much find the trend and stick with it. Bitcoin selling, but Ethereum is not, and Solana down a little bit, but not nearly as bad as well. So we're seeing it in the crypto space too, where you're getting some cryptos moving higher, some moving lower. It's not an everything rally. It's not an everything sell. And the easiest way to see that is just look at the SPY, right? So the SPY, again, I'm going to take you guys to this chart periodically today, just to, because
Do
the
it.
numbers may look big here. If you see something up or down 0.5%, you go, oh, that's a big deal. And then you forgot, some people forget that we were up like, it's like 4 or 5% in the IWM yesterday.
Stop.
So
Stop out of Apple, looking to get back in there. Took the green, right? It can rip off this 228 though. It's trying to reload here in the 227.80s. Just putting that out there. Just took like about $100 there in Apple.
nice.
Still think it can push a little bit further, but this was a trend line throwback look. You can clearly see it, right? Like it's just now it can come back to VWAP 227. I'll get right back in, or 228 break to 230 could be another way to play it. Keep it going back to those charts. I'm looking around out there. I'm trying to make trades out there. PDD still looking good. FXI still looking good. China. And small caps, what's going on there with STSS? That's an interesting one today, guys. Sharps Technology, guys. This is one that I'd keep on the radar. That thing's been ugly. But if it gets back above maybe 1250 later on, just did a hard dip there. Apple holding in there now, trying to not even come back to the 9 EMA. Shows me the strength. They've recovered 228s in a hurry there. Let's see if we can just keep this running and rallying. There it is. I'm right back in there, guys. Going to go for a quick trade here. See if this can rally up to 228 level. I can risk about $16 of what I just earned to see if this can start to rip higher there. So let's see if this starts to push now. Looking for a rebuy of 228s. There's 228.10s. Get rebought up there right around the 228s. Stop at 228 now. Let's see if this gets out. There, out right there. 228, $20 there of the $100. Now I'm looking for a VWAP pullback here. If it keeps going through the 228s, we can keep playing scalps through there. But I'm trying to do a little bit more of make some money on the move. Scalp a little bit if it wants to just continue to run. We'll see what happens. FLNC, my top trade on Friday. It's pulling back. We'll see what happens on that one. Nail now still hanging around that 84. I'm still looking for that after the first half hour of the day to see if this comes right back. Apple still trying to do that 228 recovery. I'm going to look for a pullback now. Just kind of getting that consolidation here, though, does tell me there's some buyers willing to step up.
Yeah, we're kind of doing a lot. Right? It's just one of those days that now I wonder if it will be, even though it's not a huge number, but this home sale number that's coming up in 13 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect the overall market.
Like,
The
will
home
it end
numbers.
up?
It'll just be more and more of home builders numbers.
Well,
'Cause
and like
those,
we talk about that, there's a lot of funds that don't have robots or won't turn the robots on until after the numbers are done. So
yeah, I
certainly
think
could be the case.
I think in this case for the home builders number is not a big deal. I think you just got to find the strength, guys. Just find the strength, right? Apple's strong, clearly, right? I just got out of that, and that's just continued through that 228, now 228.50s. So if there's one strong name, it's Apple right now. Really good looking chart, too. Remember, I've talked about how I think institutions are loaded in this thing. So this is really getting going. There's more talk about them going after an AI player, and that's what keeps getting mentioned. That's why you're getting this rally. We've talked about it, how Apple just needed to talk something about AI and things were going to get started. I think it's already there, guys. Well, I don't even know if I'll get another pullback in Apple today. And that might be one of those where I just sold it too quickly right on the opening rip.
Well, our first trade of the day, GLNG, just entered here. Let's take a look at what this thing is and if we care. But yeah, it's been a pretty slow day. So GLNG, this is just looking at, like a lot of these names, something that was really, really strong on Friday. And now it's looking like it's going to potentially continue here on the next day. Oh, and another short with TALO to the short side. So this is just an overextended Talos Energy, an overextended short. So got some trades starting to filter in here. Better than nothing.
FXI continuing to lift. China alert is on, guys. I've been talking about China, and I think too many people are not talking about that move. It's big. Yin pushing now, really.
I keep forgetting about those. Yeah, the yin and
The
the
yin is nice right
yin
now,
and the
man.
yang.
And then C-Web is also nice too. But the problem with C-Web is it did spread me out. Like it got me out because it was just hopping all around. The China names are harder to trade. You got to be a little bit wider, really give yourself the spot. Because I was trading C-Web last week at 45, and I got out at 45 multiple times, and then that only bottomed at like right there, like I think at 44.68 that day. So looking to see what happens with those names. Baba was definitely one of the names that I was looking at there. It's done the 124 dip, now recovered and looking really well for the strategy that we talk about, Michael. So the
Yeah.
strategy would have been on there on Baba for sure.
Well,
And
just
FXI,
look at this opening range. This is just
PDD, like you know
an
what I mean?
ugly name. Just not doing much of anything here. So yeah, we need something to kind of kick us out. I don't know if opening range break players have. That's 15 minutes now. So if you're using the 15-minute opening range, you're still inside of it. It makes sense that this could be. It's one of the reasons that I think like the 15 and the 30-minute opening range break works as well as it does is that often you get these numbers and sometimes you just have, if you're massive $18 billion hedge fund, you're not going to just trade now as opposed to trading in 2 minutes from now. If you're that impatient, you've definitely not made it to that kind of a level. So I don't know if this is going to be enough to just kick us out of this range and finally start some sort of trend. And then I also, again, will bring all day. I'm going to bring you guys back to this chart just to show you that really everything that's happening right now in this zone is kind of a big nothing burger. So, you kind of mark the highs of yesterday or Friday and mark the lows of Friday. And we could spend the week in here. I don't think that would surprise anybody if we spent the entire week just inside this candle. And if you look at it from a weekly point of view, right, just zoom out and say, would you be surprised if this week's candle is inside this week's candle range? I don't think that, right? Same thing happened here on that big down move. The next week, we just spend kind of inside that range. Happens quite frequently after large moves, right? Here's another large up move, and the next week was inside. So because of what we saw on Friday, I wouldn't be surprised here, which just means that, a little bit more buy the dip, sell a rip, that kind of thing, be more protective of profits, right? Trade a little bit more frequently, a little more actively. And then, yeah, tax talk about FNNMA. This one, FNMA. This one's on you can see the alert right there. So this one's in the system to be loaded. I had a great trade on it. We bought it here in the 7s and sold it in the 9s. So that was a great little trade. Missed this spike here, but yeah, the algorithms have kind of popped this 1150, and if we can get through 1150, that might kind of kick us off to the races here. This has been a crazy trade. It showed up in the algorithms quite a bit because often, just like I'm doing in the day trading market, in the swing trading market, we're just trying to detect unusual moves, right? Unusually large moves and usually small moves, and then build systems based off of that. You can't build systems based off the ordinary. So show me something unusual or extraordinary. If you want to get a little bit cuter with it, you could probably just draw a downtrend line in through here, and that would probably intersect yesterday's high, and you could kind of take it through that, but. Puma. I don't know anything about NASDAQ. Puma Biotechnologies? Oh, that's an interesting
Puma,
play there.
the shoes.
Yeah, that's like someone was mentioning chat. I'm like, I don't know if I've ever
Cole
heard of
still
that one.
doing well. Apple still doing well. Looking to start seeing some names take off here. Tesla having kind of more of what I think maybe potentially inside day, but it's put in a range. It's interesting. It's a 15-minute candle up there, like 341, then pull back to 336. Could reload here, start to get going.
On the
Looking
swing
around.
side, I'm really interested here in Tesla. It is getting tight, 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 tight.
Oh, it's nice. The 330 breakout on Friday would have been so nice to play, guys. I was talking about that throwback look on that level. It was pretty, pretty.
And then this a good way to measure it. Just to you can go do bandwidth.
Symmetrical triangle on the cues. We'll see if we break it just to put it out there.
This is a great little indicator. Most places will have it, but this is just the Bollinger Band width right here. So basically, every time there's a blue line here, it's just showing that this is as the Bollinger Bands, which are just a volatility measure, are very, very tight. Quite often, when you get these really extreme tight readings, you get big moves on individual names. You can see that
Yeah.
happen kind of right in this area where the bands got really, really tight and then exploded higher. And you can see we are as tight here as we've been for a very long time as kind of a percentage rank here on the Bollinger Bands.
All right. One name that I like for pullback entries is LI. I'm just putting it out there ahead of time so that you guys don't tell me
Lee Auto.
Yeah. So the other EVs are doing really well, and I'm the kind of look that I'm like, well, if they're gonna go, at some point LI is gonna go, and LI, of course, it has a big China stake that keeps them alive. The government is invested heavily in LI.
It's
So
interesting with
they're not gonna fail.
Neo is kind of interesting here. Just came back down to the 2-day VWAP and held that, and now it's looking like it's popping through here. So this might be my one discretionary trade of the day. Just grab
Taking
a
a
little
little bit
bit
of
of
LI already. Gonna try to take it through.
Neo. Simple low a day stop. See if something wacky happens. And the idea behind this, just kind of what we've been talking about a lot, is this is a really interesting daily chart. This thing's kind of been on fire. And then comes back down, tests the 2-day VWAP almost to the tick, and then now it looks like it's trying to break through this VWAP. So if we get that, then I'll take a little bit of a trade there. Need something to happen. We got 3 minutes till the number, even though it's not a big number, and we are still just completely and utterly range bound here on the S&P 500. Have not broken the opening range, and we really haven't gotten anywhere close to breaking yesterday's range. So not really getting too excited on any side of this, just because the market is telling me not to. The market is telling me to chill out. And then maybe we'll finally break the opening range. We can pick a direction and do something from that. But yeah, so I've got the 3 trades on, the GLNG, the TALO, both up a couple bucks on that. And then I'm watching this NEO for a potential move. It could correspond with that as well. So I'm talking about XPEV.
Whew.
Yeah, that's bopping its head up against the 2-day VWAP there as well.
Yeah, and what did it do? Undercut a rally, baby. Let's go.
So if it gets through that 2-day VWAP,
Looking
which is
good.
also this pre-market high, could be a pretty significant level, cause a little bit of a pop through there.
Added to LI now, got about 500 shares, 241, 2441. Looking to see if that can get going there. Just push 24 as a support on the daily, so I don't think it's going to come back to there at this point. I'm just looking to see if it can just start riding the 90 MA trend. Undercut that twice at 2430, so looking to see if it just drives back through 2450s. SMR catching a little bit there. I like that name off of the 35 look, so let's see if it starts to recover now. Maybe one more dip to 3480s and then the rip higher, but SMR definitely on the radar here. And then that STSS, watch for a rip above 12 in the small cap land for all those small cap people watching us out there.
USAR, MP. Yeah, a lot of those are getting big moves
baby.
here.
You know why, right?
No.
IWM.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, right? We are recovering. They are smaller cap type kind of names, but
Yep, like RCAT. Look at RCAT right now. That's why I liked RCAT today. That's why I like UMAC today. It's not necessarily I'm so in love with drones. They're just part. They're really good names in the IWM to look for runs. IWM recovering now. That looks good, man. UMAC looks interesting there. It started to break out there above 11s. Love to see a pullback in this, but this might just start to get going here. We'll see if we get that pullback back below 1120s.
yeah, all right. So there's the one thing we had on the go today is out of the way, and we're getting a nice little pop from it. So as soon as
Yep.
that number came out, we broke the opening range higher, and we're
I'm
getting
going for
close to
some
that
nail.
VWAP.
Love to grab it at 84s, but that's just me. Let's see if I can get 84s.
Remember, it's the third knee-jerk reaction. That's the one that's really important. Yeah, its question is, can we hold this breakout of the opening range? Again, there's a lot of those opening range break traders. They finally got a bit of a break here. Now we're right back down. So let's see if we can happen.
Back, pulling back.
We got to be able to stick the landing here. We got right to almost to the tick that VWAP that I drew from J Pow's speech. So we need to kind of be able to retake that. If that was just a fake out to the upside, I wonder if we sell all the way back down here to the low end of the range, or we just get back in the range just to frustrate the most amount of people possible.
OPAD. I think that one is, from my eyes, I really need to do the research all over again. But I think this one also is a similar to Open Door type service, guys. So OPAD, offer pad. I got to look into a little bit more. The pattern looks good off this 250. It's holding really well there. Just putting that one out there.
OPAD.
OPAD. Looks strong there.
Yeah. Short.
Oh yeah,
Shorter.
it's strong. I took a little bit there just to try to scalp it a little bit. We'll see if it can rip here.
Yeah, pretty decent little short there too. 8%.
See if it can start pushing a little bit here.
See what my open's doing. Nothing. Nothing. Open's doing nothing. Nothing's really doing nothing.
Nothing's doing nothing. A lot of nothing and nothingness.
That's okay, right? Again, young Mike is out there hunting. It's like I gotta trade. I'm joking.
Where's my trade?
It's like itching my neck. I gotta place a trade, and I've got
Yeah.
a couple of these on. They're up or down a couple bucks. Nothing really to note, and we just wait. Right? We just wait for this range will resolve at some point today. I don't know if it will do it while we're on stream, but we're definitely gonna have something happen at some point. So we just need to see. Again, we're watching now the pre-market low. We've got nowhere near that so far. So if we get down and through that, then that's interesting to me because we broke that pre-market high and we got close to that VWAP. And then, now we've kind of come back down. So could have faked some people in.
Mm-hmm. Hanging in there right now, watching LI and OPAD. Those are the names. APLD still look good on that 16. BTU finally pulling back. Looking around out there, guys. Got to take some swing trades later on. I don't want to open up the swing trades too early today. I feel like, especially on Mondays, you can get caught pretty quickly. I think you want to watch how the action develops throughout the day.
Well, let's take a little look here. Let's sort by sectors that are doing the best here. MSOS, again. We have healthcare doing okay. So what's XLV doing? Does that mean UNH? No, XLV is falling apart here. Does that mean UNH is as well? It's down a bit. Nothing really crazy. How's financials doing? And then they're selling a little bit as well. So yeah, a little bit of a reversion today where we're having big cap tech kind of holding the torch for us just a little bit. See if we can get some of these other sectors to start participating at all. But again, daily candles. This is the day to zoom out. And you look at XLV and you say, "Oh man, is the world falling apart?" And it's like, It's down a little bit from yesterday's close. Not a big deal. And you look at the SPY, you say, oh no, are we going to fall apart? It's like, well, we're still in the top end of that crazy range that we had happen. So we look at yields, TNX. So yields are moving up ever so slightly after a sell-off. Obviously, yields fell on Friday because the guy who controlled yield said that they were going to fall. So that's pretty much all he had to do. You don't need to look too much deeper than that. It caused TLT to bounce a little bit, but bonds selling a little bit here as well. And that's the yields are everything, because we know that's his button, right? That's Trump's button to say that's enough. Right? He'll do whatever he takes to rally the market if yields get too high. It gets too expensive to service the debt at that point. COG will settle with investors. What is this? Let's see, LSE. Cognizant? I don't know.
See if I can get a OPAD breakout. Still no entry in that nail. Got out of LI.
Q's looking pretty strong here. Trying to move
Apple's
up.
still holding well, man. Apple's been a really good name today. VIX dropping. That's a good sign.
Yeah, FXI is pulling back. We got SPY potentially turning around for a higher move there, and then the Q's leading the charge. So a bit of a revision from what we saw last week, at least for now, where we had IWM beating big cap tech, and today we have big cap tech beating IWM.
All right. Still not a lot of sectors in the green. Tech is kind of holding us up. Energy's trying to get green here. Cyclicals trying to get green, but looking for that to start adjusting a little bit.
Yeah, digging in here in IWM, but not pushing higher in the way the Qs are. The Qs have almost gone green. I think that's going to be an important number for these things today. If they start to flip green after the kind of gap down, the pullback we had in the Sunday overnight session, that gets a little bit more interesting. If that happens over and over again, we start to see more and more things start to split green. Then we start to get a little bit more excited to say, okay, well, they wanted to buy the dip, because remember, the large guys out there, the big institutions, they're not chasing in the overnight session on Sunday night, right? They need to wait for that liquidity to kind of catch up. So they're going to wait. And then if there's that home sale numbers, they're probably just going to say, okay, let's wait for that and make sure it doesn't come through disastrously. And if it doesn't come through disastrously, then we start to turn on the buy bots and start to buy the things that we were interested in. Again, eventually, at some point, I think you're going to get a pretty gnarly snapback where you're going to have a lot of these large cap tech names that have been selling off quite a bit. You're going to get that kind of pop right back through there.
All right, OPAD, let's go for it. I got 1,000 shares here. It's up to 280s. I'm looking for the rip higher. Let's see if it can go higher. If not, I'll be okay with a pullback here and then getting out and trying to recess. But it could get above the 280s and go to 3 really quickly here. So not showing my hand. I'm just waiting to show my hand if it starts to come back, break even. So let's see if it starts to get above the 280s here and then starts to rip higher. Back below 270s, I'm going to show my hand. Let's see if it starts to rip higher, guys. SMR holding that 35 really well, just as another play that I'm watching out there. That one's still holding the range from Friday.
Yeah.
So like 15-minute ranges from Friday, I would love to see those resistance and supports holding, right? So like they're kind of reloading on levels where people were going long on Friday. I think that's a really good look to look after. All right, there you go. Stops place for me at this point, 267, break even. Just looking for this to run. If it runs, it's going to run here. Let's see if it gets to run there. I'll actually go to 265. I'll give it a little leeway, 20 bucks. But let's see if OPAD wants to go. All right, LI is still watching that. It's on the VWAP now. FXI on the VWAP. This looks interesting for me, guys. So I'm going to go take some shots on that.
Yeah, the Qs are now down 0.1%, so very, very close to flipping green there. and the rest of the market's getting driven up. And this is, I always show you guys this. If you look at the SPY, we're down 0.1%. And then you look at the RSP, we're still down 0.5%. So again, always important to look under the hood. This is very, very much a large cap tech type of rally where we're getting that movement in these big names and they're pulling the rest of the market up. It's not the day that these IWMs are, or the small caps are really leading the charge there. So that's how much we got to pay attention to those, right? So it's, and you can always go in and just take a look. If you go, hey, QQQ holdings, and you can always see the weights, which are very important. It's not just the holdings, right? You always want to make sure that you're paying attention to the weights, and then you'll have a pretty good idea, right? So NVIDIA is 9%, Microsoft is 8%, and Apple is 5%, right? So if you go look at it, you're probably going to see one of those guys going. Yeah, NVIDIA.
OPAD came back and got me there, guys. Just break even, but I got out for like $5. So it's pretty much break even. Pullback, just didn't want to break that 280. Could have sold it for just 10 cents. But there it is. OPAD still one to watch in the small caps, but I'm out of that one for the time being. Looking to see if LI can run right back up. FXI, names that I'm watching here. Apple, I would love for it to come back to VWAP, but we'll wait to see if it can do that. BTU, another one that I'm watching on pullbacks. SMR looks interesting as it's recovered 35 on the hourly. You can see kind of that range from Thursday kind of still holding in right now. Could go back to 36. APLD, still one name I really like here above 16. Did undercut 16, now getting strong. RCAT, Bros, still doing well. Pony, CEG, the nuclear trade is looking good. SQM, back to being hot. Lithium names, hot. So UMAC on the pullback looks interesting also.
Oh, UMAC.
And OPAD is still holding in there for the 270, $3 breakout. I'm just not going to play with it too much here, but at least I'm putting it on the radar for you guys out there that's more up your alley.
Yeah, there you go. We got Dow at lows of the day, and then we have the Qs near highs of the day. So again, a little bit of that reversion. That generally is happening because I would imagine if I look at healthcare, it's still getting creamed. Yep. And financials kind of still getting creamed. So this is the tech day. Right? The last week was not the tech week. Looks like this week is the tech week. So grab your favorite tech guy and try to make sure you're going in that. Because if you take a look here, we just go to the Dow, hitting new lows, and then you look at the Qs, pretty much holding up right at highs here. So it's just, we're seeing rotation, right? And rotation obviously isn't linear. That would be way too easy if it was just buy the IWM and go every day and short the Qs. So you'll have these pockets where things revert kind of back and forth. But the IWM is actually holding on okay. Small caps are doing all right. They're trying to break out of the prior day's high. Haven't quite gotten there yet. And then with the Qs, right, again, definitely broke out and went strong. Went right to green on the day, I think like by a penny, and then reversed down a little bit. And again, we've got nothing really to shake us up today except a random tweet, which no one can predict. And we've got some member Logan of the FOMC, but he's happening way later. And no one really cares about him. Well, we got Williams and then someone else. So we do have some guys yapping, but they're not yapping till well into the afternoon and really close to the close. So again, and we got to remember, I'm going to keep going back to this chart. Right? This is what happened on Friday, and then we're just inside the range. It's even more pronounced in the SPY. This is what happened on Friday, and then nothing happened today. It would not surprise me if we get multiple days of this. I'm spending my off time from here. I'm working on more systems, and they're all still mean reversion for day trading. I got a couple ideas for more mean reverting systems, but especially in this environment, I think those will take the day. Sometimes we want to buy big trends. Sometimes you just want to take a little bit of a shot, buy a dip, sell a rip.
Looking for some pullback action. I'm trying to get into UMAC. I've had an order out there for about 20 minutes at 11. Never wanted to fill, so I'm canceling it now to see if it gets under 11. Same thing with nail. I put out an order at 84 for like for like a day now, guys. I still haven't getting filled, and it went right to 84 and no fill for me. So that just goes to show you. So no fill at right where I wanted to get in. I got to try to start getting in on the in between the spread now for nail. We'll see if I'm able to get that. You see it just running away from me. That's the problem with nail for me. I have a problem with getting in. It's hard to get in there. I'm trying to get in right now, and I just missed like 84s. And I tried 100 shares, so it would have been a really good order there. It's already back to 85s on the offer. We'll see if it gets going here. Might have to go for a stock in that kind of stock, right? That kind of name.
Yeah, Builder or Lennar, Toll, Home Depot. It's kind of one to play with just the sector, just that group in general.
PHM doesn't look too bad. It's like Toll Brothers, decent chart, right?
Pulte. That's with the member who's insane, right? Is that the
They're all insane, man.
well, there goes the Thar.
Thar.
That halted.
Thar
What's
ripping.
halted?
I talked about
Oh,
it in the chat how that was looking good and was holding on. Didn't look like a hangover short, that's for sure. Look at hangover ripper. Looked like he
the
partied
Thar.
all weekend and ready to rip out.
Yeah, halted 630. That's another one again. If you guys trade these crazy things, man, make sure you're in the chat and taking a look at Steph. Steph's always trading the craziest stuff out there.
Craziest.
So yeah, we're halted. We'll let you know when it unhalts, when and what ends up happening. But that kind of gets us above this long base that's been hanging out here ever since it gapped up. Here's like the hourly chart. It did a huge move and then just consolidated sideways for a while. And now it looks like it's ripping out of that base. There's the
Nvidia is
daily
starting
chart.
to climb, guys. So I think it's also higher quality names that I'm seeing. Some of your big boys. I'm sticking with the big boy trend today. Seems like that's to be the area that's doing well. TSM, another good looking chart if it can come back a little bit there and get going. So those are just names that I'd be looking at. Higher quality big boys.
Yeah, the Qs are definitely leading the charge here, right? They're the only ones who are close to green on the day. We have the SPY doing a little worse. We have IWM doing a little worse. Mid caps doing a little worse. So it's the opposite of what we saw last week. Now that there's been some of that air let out of the balloon a little bit, and there might be people going bargain hunting on some of those big cap tech names that got caught a clobbered. They might be saying, okay, it's time to grab a little bit catch up trade. Who knows if they'll be right or whether that will be something else down the
Yeah, watch
road.
the IWM here. The IWM looking interesting. And let's
Yeah,
get it.
it's
Let's get it.
struggling to get
It's
at highs
interesting.
here. And again, they didn't cover as much as I would have expected them to, and as much as would make sense to me. They're still a huge net short position on small caps, so that could change anytime.
That's why I like the small caps right now. So I'm looking for that theme. It's not necessarily a theme. It's just literally like, are you leading in the IWM, right? If you're a leading player in the IWM, I'm watching for you right now. So a good way that I
Yeah,
can do that, I can just literally search for it, right, and see those types of names and just ride that rally, like FLNT, Fluent. I'm going to names that I think you could actually trade too, because you got to look for some volume there. That's one thing that I would say. Make sure you're trading something that at least has some volume. ESPR, another small name that's getting a lift there.
well, yeah, and with the IWM, you just got to remember, it's such a big hunting ground
Oh yeah,
that
GoPro man,
2,000 names. They
G
still
Pro,
exist.
G Pro.
Wow, still exist. What was it? Talking
Oh,
about trading
housing
through
stock,
eBay.
RMAX,
There
Remax,
it is.
real estate stock.
No, that's interesting.
It's an interesting one, right? So I'm looking through here,
Again, makes sense.
MGNI. That's a
Makes sense to hunt
mid
there.
cap, like mid cap looking stock. That's really a good looking trend. MGNI.
Well, an MDY, which is your mid cap ETF, that had a very interesting breakout on Friday as well. It's been in this range here for like 2 months plus, and had a nice breakout on Friday. So again, I've talked about it before. I know I got a lot of hedge fund guys who's just exclusively that's their area is mid cap, and that's around like say 2 to 10 billion in market cap. Sometimes they'll go from say 5 to like 25 billion, but they don't want the huge guys because there's just less of a potential of a double or a triple or a 10x from there. It's much easier to get a $2 billion stock and that to be a $20 billion stock years from now than it is for a $2 trillion stock to become a $20 trillion stock. So that's like bigger than the US. So that's an interesting zone to look at. I've got some algorithms that I've been testing inside, just hanging out in that mid cap area. They do pretty well because you don't have the junk. You're not having the junk of the small caps. But so you've got some quality filters kind of built right in just to be a mid cap, but they're not too bloated at that point. ORSH, Steph is saying. OSRH. Jeez. No, so that's another D-SPACs at 10 and just tanks to 40 cents in pretty much a straight line. OSR Holdings. Health Technologies. Now they're gapping up. What are they YOLOing? Sheep with hat. Is that their...
Valet getting a little bit lift. I like this one for the swing account. I'm going to get my swing account up here. It's time to take a swing.
Yeah. I already bet. Say they're going to...
All right,
This
guys.
is a treasury. Speaking of treasury, where's BMNR? That's still not... This chart's looking very interesting to me. This Bitmine.
Bitmine.
The rando
BMMR?
mob trade. Yeah, just
Yeah, it
very...
can still go. It can still go,
very,
man.
very tight here. Just
It can still go. And that's the
really-
crazy part. It got a lot of volume. It's holding the bullish engulfing candle on the
Mhm.
daily.
On the risk reward's just huge, right? If you're
there.
buying it at 52 and you're saying, hey, if we close under like 45, I'm out. Right? That's a 10%, 15% risk. Very easy for this thing to make 50, 100%. That's certainly a possibility.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Rando's saying his mom's still there. Oh, good for her. She's held through an insane amount of volatility.
I don't know about all that. I'll bless her, but I don't know if I could hold through all that now.
70% from those highs, but
Yeah.
up 77% from this recent low. See, now if she was like the real Giga Brain, would have bought that dip.
Yeah. Reload.
And
Added.
take that half that you sold off as it was ripping and buy that back in.
Yeah.
Then you're real degen.
Or 3/4 it, man. 3/4 it. Sell 3/4. Go back and take another 25% back. So then you get to like a 50% exposure with money in your pocket. I like that mentality for a rip out like this. Look at Apple, man. Apple's just strong, man. Apple doesn't want to stop today. It just pushed off that 228 number really well. This looks like it wants to keep going today. I'm going to try to scalp it through here towards the 229. I don't have enough buying power.
What was it? 8?
I'm hearing the annoying sound, Michael.
Oh yeah.
That. Not enough. Not enough. That.
I like that sound. There's no way I'm getting there today, man, with the two trades, the GLNG, which is about even, and the TALO, which is about even. So I would need some sort of miracle to get to
Apple. Let's see if it gets going here. I'll take 100 shares. That I can do.
SoFi. Someone's trading SoFi.
That's a good
Ooh,
name.
wow.
It's a good name. It's a good name. You guys know what I've said about SoFi, right? I said it on Trader TV that this could be the next Palantir.
We're right at those all-time highs still.
This
Official
could
all-time
be
highs
the
like
next.
28. I'd probably just count these, right? So this is
Yeah, man.
uh,
Adding to that apple, looking for the rip, guys.
2350, 2350.
Oh, SoFi is gonna be one, man. At least I have friends that got in at 16 because I was talking to them. So you know how it is, right? You can live vicariously through my friends, at least.
This NIO hasn't triggered yet, but interesting if it ever does.
I
Just
got cut out of
flirting
LI
between
there.
these two VWAPs, right? So the idea is if it gets through that VWAP, does it maybe get back through this prior low and then start to finally push a little bit higher there? And again, this daily chart is just nuts. So if it does a pullback and then starts to rally back through, maybe it challenges 750 or something crazy.
Yeah, SoFi, hot, hot, hot. Tesla ain't looking too bad itself. I think a lot of things are you're seeing them hold their supports. Watch for the ones that are starting to break towards resistance. Those are the ones leading the momentum right now. So if your stock is at support right now, it's trying to follow versus lead. Leading ones right now are all sitting at their resistance. At least that's what I'm seeing on the momentum. They're not sitting at support right now.
That is interesting there. So decently short on the natural gas and had a gap down and then just ripped to fill the gap today. If you're looking at the futures, so I don't know, maybe a boil. That's I kind of like that.
Boyle, man, you
Kind of
guys are
like
trying
that.
to make some widows out there.
I like it. I may actually pick some of this up in my
You're trying
my
to
real boy account, my big boy account here. There's been a lot of anytime you get crazy reversals like that, sometimes you get decent little moves, right?
yeah.
What else are we seeing? PSIL. Interesting little move in PSIL recently. I've been watching this one really closely with this AVWAP from all-time high. It's been bouncing against that for the longest time and relatively dramatically outperforming the market today. MSOS as well, right? So just the stuff that gets you stoned is doing pretty good. We're right up against that prior high of 1733. If this base resolves higher, again, that to me is very interesting just because if you look at this is kind of the prior resistance zone. Make that something easier to see. Get rid of the background and do come on. Yellow. There we go. And you can see how long this
Yellow.
has been resistance. So support here, resistance, 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 resistance. And now it's just been chopping through that level and right below that anchored VWAP. So I have some of this. I have some MindMed as well, but I'm going to significantly add to my PSIL position if we can get a daily close above that VWAP, which is a stop kind of down here in the 15s. One of those. I'm not expecting it to go back to 110 or something like that, but if it can come back, even to 20, even to 30, that's like a 60% gain.
Yeah.
Take that all day.
Get it while you can.
Pot.
BTU taking another step up to 17. METC, the black gold continues. It's all about coal, and Santa needs some good coal to come to all those bad kids this year.
Yeah, that one's looking good. My little FTech coal stock has done nothing for
EXX
since
dropping fast there.
June now. It's just been
Good
consolidating
look.
sideways. And yeah, the SPY just continuing it's nothing, right? So just don't get too excited on either side. Don't get too up on things that are moving higher, too down on things that are moving lower. Just even keel today. We've got the SPY down 0.2%. We've got the Qs down 0.1%. We have IWM down 0.3%. Well, when you take that, if you take those numbers on their own, they feel like pretty bearish today that everything's down. If you take them and you compare them to what happened on Friday, where the IWM was up like 4.7% or something like that, it ends up being a very interesting pullback and a rest. You expect if a major index rips 5%, then it doesn't surprise you that it takes a little, right? I always just equate like a fat guy running up a hill. Ran up a big hill yesterday on IWM. Needs a little bit of a rest here. Needs a chill. It doesn't necessarily mean he's come back down. It needs to chill. And you can look at this and say, well, we could take like a 30-minute chart or something and slap on like an RSI and just say, well, it's probably a little bit overbought. And we know that we don't want to short things that are overbought because that just doesn't work over time. But an overbought RSI could mean stops going up for a while. Some back and forth, some sideways consolidation, have it chill out a little bit, and then turn higher later today, tomorrow. Might actually have to do with, we've got, when is NVIDIA? NVIDIA's Friday, I think, for earnings. That might be the event. There's usually like one or two events Wednesday. There's one or two events a week that sometimes the market seems to wait for and then rip. But
out of Apple there on that pullback. Got a little bit of a pullback there. I'm out for the time being. I'll look to get back in.
so open, no stop. They said, yeah, open is. Let's not jinx it around here. I don't want to spend too much time looking at it, but we are breaking out just a little bit here on open. I just don't. The more I look at it, the more I jinx it. So this could be a big one, right? I've got a decent amount of this thing. Looking for a double.
Yep. I'm gonna play OPAD a little bit more here, off of that. So I'm playing a little bit of OPAD here.
You can hold OPAD.
So just a little bit,
decent. Yeah, I'm up $2.85 today off the algorithm, guys. It's a big day.
Big day.
So I can go and I can get a burger and what off the dollar menu? Do they even have the dollar menu anymore? I keep making dollar menu references. I just don't know if that's
not even a thing anymore, bro. That's a thing in the past. Now it's all about the value meals.
Oh, so yeah,
they get you with the value. It's value.
So I got to retire the dollar menu joke, I guess, man. There'll be a whole bunch of people who have no idea what I'm talking about.
They don't understand what you're saying, man. Electronic component stocks doing really well today. A stock that was interesting I saw doing well that I'm going to just keep an eye out to see what happens in the next couple of months. Best Buy. I think it's interesting.
Best Buy. And Best Buy is where I go to look at something and then to buy it on Amazon. It's like, I'm interested in looking at a bunch of TVs. I'll go to Best Buy and look at them and then just write down the model number and go buy it from Amazon so some guy can bring it right to my house.
Ooh, look at that SMR recovery, guys. That should have been one maybe taking on the swing side of things. I tried to take it on Friday. Yeah. And I just got in and out of it on Friday. I was taking gains, but like small gains there. So just to put one in perspective there, that's doing really well now and climbing back.
Far reopened and ripped.
Up
to $8. Right?
Ooh, it's up there to 776 now. Could go for another haul. Be careful though. Outside of the boundaries there of something that you can grab on Trade to Pool. At least too fast for that kind of move there. But it's almost up there to 8 there. We'll see if it keeps going.
Only down 99.5% from all-time highs now. So it'll get there. Don't worry. You just buy it now, and then it'll go all the way back up to $2,000 a share. You'll make your 22,000% gain and retire.
That's it.
How it works.
That's it.
TNGX. There's a couple of these, like, was it TNGX? Is that the one I'm thinking about? No. There's a couple of these that Mullen was the biggest one, but I think I think that's gone. I think it's finally deceased, just like Bed Bath and Beyond. I had one of
Deceased.
those Bed Bath and Beyond crazies come after me, on Twitter yesterday. It was hilarious. I just started quote tweeting them. And he got very mad.
Ethereum trying to climb. Let's see if it starts to climb. CleanSpark was one early on that tried to make a move, and it's trying to climb back. So just to put one in perspective out there that I saw trying to get going in the range, small cap range, that you guys can keep your eyes open for. You doing that move. There's UMAC. Talked about it. Could go with the IWM as one of the names that is leading there. RCAT is following it. And what did I talk about? Look for the ones that are near the resistance. That one was sitting off the 1136. Kaboom, breaks the resistance, and there it goes.
Yeah, big move there on that. IWM is trying to break out of its high. It's had a pretty solid resistance up against this area. Maybe I'll just do a TNA or is it TZA? TNA. Maybe. I still haven't taken my one shot today. Just had the two bots flirting. Oh, that took away my money. Now I'm down $10. See, it's a very emotional day for me. It's a lot of, and one of the beauty of this is like, if there is a beauty of algo trading, this is one of them, right? I have up to, I think, like 30 some odd trades that could have been taken today, but they have to meet a certain criteria. They have to get to a certain price. They have to get there in a certain manner. And instead of me getting exhausted here, scrolling through those 35 names over and over and over again, if they trigger, I'll get them triggered and trade the pool through Signal Stack, right? And again, if you don't have a trade the pool account, they're one of our partners who they're giving you 2 free months of Signal Stack in order to play around, build your own systems like that. Because just like no hands, they will either trigger and I will hear a beep and just pop in there, or I won't hear a beep and I don't really have to worry too much about the trading that happens today. And for me personally, who has a deep-seated issue with over trading and boredom trading, this was my way around it, where I don't need to worry about that at all anymore, because I was a bad culprit for kind of. It becomes the point where you like value your time. You're sitting there and it's noon and nothing's happened. You're like, well, I got to make some money. I've been here all day. What's the point? And then you take a trade. And of course, that trade's going to lose money because it's just a trade for the sake of taking a trade.
You know what's happening? At least I see it underneath my eyes right now. I feel like the unwind of the healthcare trade is happening already, and they're taking their profits and running. Lily telling me that example because they had good news today and they're going down. So some people are going to be scratching their heads. I think that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the unwind happen in healthcare, right back out of there, and now switching right back into what? What we've been talking about all morning: technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tech day. Now, whether or not the great unwind, as I've been coining it, I don't think it's done based off the data. But again, it's not going to happen in a straight line. It's not going to just be IWM up in a straight line and the Q's down.
Yeah.
You're going to have days like this, and this is why it's important to be here, and we kind of commentate for you the entire time, is just to be able to see it. We have XLK up. Like Mitch was saying, XLV is getting hammered and at lows, and XLF hammered and at lows, and not quite at lows, but kind of at lows. Another trade, APA short, just came through one day. APA Corporation, energy and materials. So it just took a little bit short here. Again, this is just a mean reversion kind of a setup. It's up a little bit too far in the last 3 days, up like 13%. Just trying to take that down as well.
Ooh, LAC getting a little hot. That's another small name that's not doing too bad there. I'm watching for lithium names to continue: SQM, ALB. Also, 2 names that keep watch right with that trade. Name that's strong: KLAC. That's a name that's definitely strong today.
The old Clack. Clack is an interesting. I had at these
SoFi
prior
staying
highs.
hot too. SoFi just keeps pushing highs.
SoFi. So what's going on with the other ones? Hood, I kind of put in the same basket. It's not doing much today. Coin. That's actually holding up pretty well considered. Oh, we have a rando mom alert. She likes USAR.
Uh-oh.
And Rando's mom is the best trader I know. So should we just YOLO everything in here, or at least just a little bit?
We've talked about this one. It's a good one. It's in the rare earths. It's on the 9 EMA pullback. It's recovered to 15. It doesn't look bad. Swing
Prior
alert.
highs
Rando's
here at
mom.
20 is your number, right? We get through 20. That's a new all-time high. It's not an old security. It hasn't been there very much. So that's, for sure. There's not a soul that lost money on it. Let's see if there's a short float to be seen here. Yeah, it's 5%. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, nice look there. Again, I think this whole stuff built in REMX, this is the one that's the rare earth ETF, has been having a pretty good day today here.
All right.
We have psychedelics continuing to move. I can see because I just looked at my account with MindMed in it, which is up 5% today. Go, go, go. If I wake up and this thing's $50, you guys probably don't see me ever again. Not much of this thing that I own, which isn't an impossibility. It's not really what I'm shooting for, but that gets us all the way back up into this area. And it's definitely the leader in the space if you just look at the charts. That and that ATAI, that one's been doing, that's up 12% today. So that one's been moving. Again, this one I miss, but this is the setup, right? Find me these. Just stuff that is priced for bankruptcy and doesn't go bankrupt. That's been the trade this year.
Looking around.
Neo still. Just I have it on a thumbnail chart here just because if it gets through, it's trying. Maybe. I'm just looking at things like open, like looking at the recent runners that are doing so well. And this one's just, I like that it stopped right at the 2-day view up. That's what got my interest. Then it came up to the 1-day interest. And again, this would be my discretionary trade of the day. I'm always trying to take one, risking like $50 or something on it to make 100 or 200. Just to come up with ideas, because this one is very interesting to me. Is find me something that just tanks off the open to 2-day view app, or rips off the open to 2-day view app, and then comes back through 1-day view app, and then just right. So the idea would be buy at 650, your stops at the low of the day, and then you just wake me up, see what happens after it closes.
Took a swing there in LI. We'll see if it starts to get going there. Took a hard hit there on open pad there. About $300 or $400 on that downturn through the 250. So that was a big hit there. So pullbacks coming in. OPAD, quick pullback there.
Yeah, so these things have split. Open hitting a new high a day. IWM, what are we doing? Nothing. Still, we're still inside kind of the opening range break. And SPY, we're still inside the opening range. Q's pulling back a little bit. The only thing that really got going today at all was Q's. Everything else has just been nah. If you go to the RSP, right, this is the equal weighted. I talk about this all the time as the average large cap stock, and just look at that chart. That's not right. So we talk about it all the time. There are days that are everything is ripping, and you should just buy whatever kind of you can that looks good. This is not one of those days. Most stocks, most large cap stocks, most small cap stocks are selling. And then we've got a couple names holding us up. So my APA is making a few bucks here to the short side. Again, no idea who these guys are. I thought it was a like natural gas thing, APA. Yeah, oil and gas operations. So it's an operator stock. Neo's trying here. I basically just loaded this up into the same bot before and said, hey, if this gets through and closes a 2-minute candle through VWAP, take a shot. That'll be my discretionary one-off for today. And it's funny that you can call it discretionary trade, even though I'm going to use a bot to enter and size and put the stop loss and all that. Watch it rip, not close through here in a clean way, but saves me from filling out the order, saves me from kind of making that shot. So if I have
Took a starter there in yin. It's had a nice pullback here, so it's right underneath VWAP. Let's see if it gets going back above.
yin and the yang. Guys, we're up $5.50. My lunch is growing.
Uh-oh. Hey, lunch is better than having a loss. SoFi doesn't want to stop, man. That thing is just on a rampage. Stick with the ones that got the going. At least that's definitely one that they don't want to stop.
Yeah, SoFi and Open are both open. Both kind of the rippers of the day. That and where's our Thar at? Hit $9 and then pulled back. Things crazy. Old Thar. So it's definitely been, if you had your spots, you could pick them, right?
Yeah.
Apple is just still, this actually chart's starting to look really bullish to me. It's not going anywhere. It's basing, but every sell off seems like there's someone behind this thing just buying it up.
Yeah.
And there we go. A little bit of a perk. It heard me talking about it. MindMed continues. SPY, nothing. Right. This is one of those days. This is the beauty. If we want to talk a little bit of smack about those guys who just trade futures, this is a day you can talk smack on them. Because, man, imagine if you only traded ES trying to get anything out of this, or the guys who trade like NQ. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is why this doesn't really make too much sense to me. I get the leverage, and I think there's some tax benefits in the States to futures trading, but look at what you're giving up and not looking at the equity market. And I'll take a shot on a leveraged ETF. I trade them all the time, my personal account, but why look at just futures? And same with Forex. Again, the leverage, I totally get. Get your leverage and take your trade, but by not looking at names that are moving, what Thar is up, geez, how much? Thars doubled today, and the S&P 500, the futures contracts have just done nothing. NIHD. So Steph talked about it, so this one's going to be insane. Yep. Producer of building products. I bet you're not a producer of building products anymore. I bet you they are a dog in a cat world coin holder. Offers services required to transform raw materials into precise steel.
Apple. Strong.
No, it looks like it's just like it's an actual company. It does company things. It doesn't YOLO sheep with hat. Apple's been right at highs there. That would be something that could drag the whole market back with it.
Apple, baby. That just looks prime, man. Look at the daily chart now. Talked about if it gets to 230s, it's gonna be looking like everyone will talk about this stock tomorrow.
I bought this one at the beginning of the month, right here, 210. Just an algo that I have that cycles through the strongest and the highest volume names. The idea is that if you just hold the stocks that do the highest average volume, you would be shocked. I can show you the back test, but you beat the pants off the S&P 500. Just saying.
I like that.
It's like the simplest algo I run, but it's like 25% year over year growth. And and it's just it's dollar volume. So you take volume times price, and you just do an average, and whichever ones trades the most, you buy those things, and you just buy like the top 10 of them, and every month you just rotate. And it's, again, you'll notice the best trading strategies are like the most bone simple, because the idea is that if that's the stock that everybody cares about, then it's probably going to do as well, if not better, than the overall market. Ain't no fancy strategy or setup or stop loss or profit target, none of that. Just show me the stuff that people care the most about, and that's the stuff I'll be in.
Yeah. No. See if UMAC can continue. That's not looking
Neo
bad today.
Neo triggered me in there, so I just looked down. I didn't see that I was in it, but I just looked down. I was in it, right? It got through that VWAP, so it closed right there. So about 650 in this one, and then stop below the day, and just let it go, just because this thing has been on an absolute tear. So the idea is, if it gets back through, and it's sold off the open here, if it gets back through that pre-market price, this is something that me and Mitch talk about all the time, that we might end up building a strategy for, where it's you undercut the pre-market low, and then if you get back through that relatively quickly, maybe in the first, like, say 2 hours of the day or something like that, you just want to buy those and just put your stop below the day and check back on the close. But good news, Mitch, I just passed my 50K eval.
Let's go.
That's
You know what
good,
you
man.
call that?
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. Take that money. Money at the
It's a
doorstep. There you go, Shane.
good size account, right? And I like that, right? He lost a funded account, but that's okay. Got back on the saddle. Probably did a little regroup, right? A
It's
little
a
think
must.
about some strategies, right? Clear
It's a
your
must,
head,
guys.
and right, pitter patter, get back at her.
Yep. That's how it has to be a lot of the times, guys. So, one name that I want you guys not to forget is Nail. It's coming back to the VWAP now. Looks interesting here if it can really start to take off there.
Oh, nail.
It's holding the daily throwback look, which is exactly what you want to see. So this not breaking 84s today, really good sign on the daily, right? So even if it finishes a day here, it's a good sign, right? So the key is not, I think, below 84 close, because then you start to like go really back into the breakout candle, right? You can also do the retracements if you wanted to, have that mentality with Nail.
And yeah, NIO just grinding. I don't want to see like a, say a 5-minute or a 15-minute close kind of back under VWAP. I want to give it some time. Tack trims some open, so I'm just going to respond with coward. It's going to 10. It's going to 10, man. You coward. No, I haven't yet. I'm kind of just doing grab a short-term moving average or something like that, and then give me a daily close below that. I know I'll give back a whole bunch on a percentage gain from the top. Like, I'll look down at my account, and at one point I'll be up a bunch of money. Again, I'm in from around here, so I'm already up a bunch of money, but I'm just okay giving that back, knowing that there's this crazy squeeze potential that it gets to 10, 12. If we get into the 10s, that's where I'll probably really start to cut and crap. So
Seeing some pullbacks out there now. A little bit of some pullback action there. We'll see what happens. Can we start getting the move?
and I joke, it's obviously something that is up 15% today. In the last 2 days, it's up 65%. It's not unwise to make, if you make 65% in a 2 days, to take some of that money and put it in your pocket. It's not a
BMNR
crazy
starting to
thing to
lift
do.
there, guys. That could help. That means Ethereum might be getting the lift there. I could also see BTBT getting a little lift there. So just mentioning that SBET getting a little lift up to 20. We'll see if it starts to move. Some Ethereum names. It's interesting. With the new high, right? You would think these would get a little bit of some attraction. Definitely headlines. How's the Solana? How's the Salt Life?
Solana.
The Salt
Yeah,
Life
it's
doesn't
kind
look
of
bad.
doing like a lot of the rest of the market.
I like it.
It's
I like it on that daily candle recovery. You know why though? Because now you're like kind of building like this is pretty now. I think if you scroll back, you have that kind of base action, right?
it's wild how much different the chart looks from the actual security.
Yeah,
But
like if
yeah,
I
so
didn't look at if I just looked at that, what do you think about the ETF at least?
I don't the ETF is going to do exactly what this chart does, right? So
Yeah,
anytime an ETF is directly 100% based off of something else, I
it's
want to look at that something
great.
else, right?
Yeah,
No one's going to buy the double leverage ETF and have they cannot physically diverge, right? They just can't. There's market makers that keep them in place. So it's like I look at this and hey, $200. And it makes sense that we keep hitting $200 and selling off a bit and $200 selling off. But it's very large psychological kind of number there, the $200 a share. Uh, so, if we zoom out, if we get above 200, then obviously your SOLT is going to just rip because it's
yeah.
two times leveraged of Solana, right? And then just
Would
waiting for
love
the
to
two
see an
times
undercut
leverage.
of 22, like a gap down tomorrow, and then drive it through 24. That's kind of the way I see this chart.
Well, and that would look like a bit of a more of a pullback, right? So this we got to remember it's the weekend, right? So
Yeah.
this is the candle from JPOW, right? And then it had these two candles, which would be Saturday and Sunday, where
Hmm.
it did just about nothing, and it's pulling back into this particular candle. So it's
Yeah.
doing like a lot of the market is it's pulling back through that JPOW candle. So that's I think that's going to be like the $1 million question for this week is that this was obviously a huge market shifting event that caught a lot of people offside and got a lot of people stopped out and a lot of action. So how we move relative to this candle, I think, is everything this week. So it's so much that I think you just mark the high and then you mark the low of this major candle. And for me, it's kind of if we're inside this range, I'm not really too into doing much of anything. And then if we break one way or another in any sort of significant manner, then I think that gives you your tail. Like if we break through this kind of what 140 or 647 on the SPY, then it's probably all bets are on to keep ripping her. And then if we don't, we go the other way, then that might be it.
All right, definitely started to get boring, if you could say. The SPY is just sitting on the VWAP, guys. We're just kind of watching to see if maybe some other sectors start to play in a little bit. That's what I'd be watching to see if some other sectors start to push a little bit. See
Yeah.
utilities, healthcare catch a little bit of the bounce, financials. Um,
Look at this chart though. Just look at this SPY chart. This is
yeah, this is ridiculous.
frustration written right on it.
Yeah,
This
this is how you overtrade, right? Simple.
yeah. This one candle, this was right after that home number, and then right back into the range, and just chopping ever since. The Qs look a little better, but not crazy. And then the IWM looks about the same, right? So again, the opposite of last week. That's kind of my big summary here. Is last week we saw small caps rip, we saw large caps sell off, and it's seeing like at least it's we're 2 and a bit hours into Monday morning, but it seems like that is reverting, right? Where we're getting, at least for now, some small or some larger caps like Apple, those things move higher, and then the small caps are cycling back down a bit, and that's fine, right? It's I still think the unwind has room to go, but it doesn't mean like it
Amazon.
need to happen right now. It doesn't, you don't have to do it in the first minute of the day.
Amazon really strong also with Apple. I think those two are really looking good. Prime also is if Microsoft can recover 510 That's kind of a big level that it's fighting. It's trying to recover 508s today, but overall 510 I think is a big level to watch on Microsoft. We'll see what happens. It's back and forth. Stock that's trying to break the pre-market, well, not the pre-market high, but the intraday high. AEHR. That's a crazy ride today. Been sideways
Ye-
for like over 2 hours though.
Oh yeah, that's actually really nice. Held VWAP really well.
Yeah.
That's a nice looking one. But yeah, I agree with you, Shai. Just to say, I'm feeling the market's going to go sideways for a while. And it's very common. You have a big thrust, right? A massive kind of economic change, big move, and then everyone starts to place their bets again. You've got some people who probably think that that move was overdone. They're shorting against it. Then you got people who missed the move and they're buying the dip. And you have all these conflicting opinions and conflicting styles. Maybe even just people taking profits, just tons of that. And I think you get a sideways consolidation. That's why I've marked the high and the low of that candle, because as long as we're inside this range, I'm not looking at any of this as overall bullish action or overall bearish action. It's just digestion of this big move that's taken place. And that digestion could take a number of days, could take a week or so. So I'm not really super excited on any side of this. It's just kind of okay, let's take a deep breath. While they're digesting everything that came out, I will also digest everything that came out, and the bot will make like $8 when it's right and lose $5 when it's wrong. And eventually, over time, things will start to normalize and pick back up as we have the next event, the next tweet, the next, big economic number or whatever that is. So,
There's always something.
all right, Mitch. So,
All right,
any
guys, time to wrap it
closing
up,
thoughts
guys.
on the day, or
Yeah, closing thoughts. I would just say just continue to watch to see what happens later in the week. I think we'll just continue to see how China develops. Do we get any comments, of course, ahead of NVIDIA's report? That's going to be the big report of the week coming on Wednesday after the bell. Keep your eyes on that Friday PCE number. Very vital to watch there. All right, guys.
and Nvidia earnings?
Yeah, and NVIDIA earnings. Those are the two biggest things for the week. And that's later in the week, right? So we'll see what happens till then. And we also get some other tech earnings. We'll see you next time right here. Of course, Trade the Pool. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern.